So again, I'm with the St. Andrew Lutheran Church team, and we're going to dive into practice number 4, which is mentoring one another. And I'm going to read that. Practice for mentoring one another is consciously drawing out the gifts, wisdom, and life-giving power of others, and sharing our own by mentoring and being mentored. So the St. Andrew crew is practicing kind of an elevator speech, or just a couple minutes to put in their own words about what the Eco-Reformation is and why it's important to them. And so I'm going to invite Pastor Robin Hartwig to share hers, and then the rest of the group is going to offer some reflection on that, some affirmations, maybe a suggestion for improvement, as a way for us to really learn from one another and grow together. So Robin, take it away.
So team, I had a rough couple weeks. 3 Sundays ago, my mother-in-law was in Houston and the hurricane was coming. She's in her early 80s, and my spouse Janet and I were pretty terrified about what was going to happen to her. She had worked really hard to carry a lot of supplies upstairs. She doesn't usually go up the stairs anymore, and was as ready as she could be. We, for our part, being in Oregon, not Texas, felt completely helpless and afraid. The following Sunday, between services, one of our members came up to me and asked me if I could add into the prayers of the people for church at the second service, the concern for 150 people who were caught between the 2 wildfires burning in the Columbia River Gorge. I hadn't heard that 150 people were caught in the fires. I did know that a tremendous portion of the state of Oregon is on fire right now, along with fires in many other states. And I know that a lot of these are being exacerbated now by climate change, as are the hurricanes like the one that hit Texas the week before. The next Sunday, just this past Sunday, as we were gathering for worship, we were doing so knowing that another hurricane was now bearing down on the state of Florida. My spouse Janet grew up in Florida. The best woman from our wedding, along with all of her family, were hunkering down and trying to get to be as safe as they possibly could. Other friends of Janet's across Florida were also trying to be safe. And it occurred to me in the days leading up to this third Sunday, oh my God, climate change is here. It is full on here. When I grew up in the 1970s, the first wave energy crisis had hit, and we had little stickers all over our light switches and things about turning off electricity, and we were all going to shift the way that the economy was going and our relationship with the natural world was going. And somehow that big concern just seemed to disappear in years and decades after that. But I understood this was part of my life, was to try to avert this awful thing that was going to happen if we didn't act. And now, just in the last couple of weeks, I finally felt what people have been telling us has really already been true, which is climate change is not only real, but it's happening, and it's happening right now. And I realized on a heart level now, not just a head level, because I've been realizing it on a head level, I realized on a heart level, oh my God, we didn't do it. We had these decades that we knew it was happening, but we just didn't do it. Whether it was because we didn't want to or weren't ready to make the sacrifices that were required, or whether it was because somehow as a species we just hadn't evolved to be equipped to deal with this kind of a crisis, we didn't do it. So I'm in a space of lament, but along with that, I'm also in a a space, I can feel a space of a slight relief and hope and possibility arising. Because I also know that we have this faith. I also know the biblical witness that goes back thousands of years that says God has never, ever, ever abandoned the people of God through anything. God has always been there. And it is at precisely times of crises, just like this one, that we need God and we need our faith the most. And when sometimes we're fortunate enough to wake up and realize that we can turn back to God and that God will still resource us, not only be with us, but resource us and call us to be agents of hope and healing. For me, Eco-Reformation means that the time to somehow fix or tweak this is over, and that the opportunity before us is a wholesale reimagination and reinvention of what human life in relationship to the earth community looks like, and how our faith has a possibility of speaking in these times. That it's not just what Martin Luther and some other reformers did 500 years ago. This is the crisis and opportunity of our time, like the reformers 500 years ago had a crisis and opportunity that they heard the word of God responding to. And this is why I'm excited to be a part of this Eco-Reformation team with all of you.
Amen.
Thank you. Yay. Jumping in, Robin. Thank you so much. So before we shift it up to Tommy, I invite any feedback, affirmation, suggestion for improvement for Robin. What you got, team?
Team?
I really liked the ending when you said time for, I think you used the word reform, but that was interesting because this is the eco-reform, but is past, right? Little tweaks here and there. It's time for wholesale reimagination of what our relationship with your could be. That was a moving statement.
Thank you.
Awesome.
How you started with this story of how the current hurricanes and fires are related to you and our congregation. And I think I did a really good job of connecting our project and the wider world.
Great. Thanks. Well, I'll add one more, and then we can shift over. And that is that, Robin, you're at a distinct disadvantage in this because you're a pastor. So your 2-minute elevator speech was 5 minutes.
You couldn't say that.
I can say that because I got the same disease. I know. So anyway, it was absolutely beautiful. And not everybody's going to have 5 minutes to hear you, right? So great. Thank you.
I'll talk with you later about what to keep and what to let go of.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think one thing that is very profound is the leading up to that, this opportunity we had. And for those of us who remember this, that opportunity is gone. And I think that's very, very critically important to understand that we had this opportunity because we did a lot of work during that time too. You know, when I think about, that's one thing that Gary and I were talking about with our conversation out there with Rachel Carson and the Silent Spring and the Lake Erie burning. And so there was this recognition at that time, something had to shift and change. And somewhere that was lost because here we are today.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to pause this